Welcome back to Business Morning. Today we're looking at the federal government's privatization drive, and I'm being joined now in our Abuja studios by the chairman, Senate Committee on Privatization, Senator Olugbenga Obadara. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, good morning.
And the last couple of years, particularly recently, the federal government has come under a lot of pressure in terms of how it prices assets when it comes to selling off some of the government's assets that many believe should be or would be better managed by entrepreneurs or the private sector. Now, before we go into all of that, let's start with what your committee does, the role of the Senate Committee on Privatization.
Good morning. Yes, on the issue of the privatization exercise, my committee in the Senate, we're looking at working with the executive at making sure all the privatized enterprises are taken through the best international best practice and making sure that the due diligences were taken, the rules of the game thoroughly adhered to, and making sure the nation is not in any way shortchanged. We're working together with the executive at making sure that the interest of the nation is put first, and we adhere strictly, and not to be as business as usual before we came into office. We had turned privatized enterprises into who we know in government. In this circumstance, we're trying as much as possible at working so much on our oversight functions and at making sure after the sales, we work at protecting the interest of the country through our oversight functions, and we'll continue to do this.
Senator Obadara, let me come in here. You've mentioned some of, in terms of oversight functions of your committee, what you do to ensure that all parties involved in privatization process adhere to international best practices. You said you ensure that they keep to the rules of the game. It's all done in the interest of the nation and, of course, to protect the interests, basically, of the nation. But how much of this would you say your committee has been able to achieve? Because some people, or many, as a matter of fact, will argue with you, especially if we cast our minds back to last year, August, that public hearing where so many revelations were brought to the fore. How much of all of this that you've mentioned would you say your committee has been able to achieve so far?
Yeah. The oversight functions takes the committee into many privatized enterprises in Nigeria. Even before we came into office, I assumed the chairmanship of the Senate Committee on Privatization September last year, 2011. Many enterprises, more than 200, has been privatized before we came into office. But I can tell you, unfortunately, the oversight functions by the agency in charge has many ways been hampered, and many of the people that bought those enterprises, I can tell you, most of them were not even competent to bid. Where they had the opportunity to buy these enterprises, many of them, unfortunately, are not even having the interest of the nation at heart. In doing this, you will see most of them, they went through asset stripping, bastardizing the whole process, which are not in the best interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a committee in the Senate, with the mandate of the Senate of the Federal Republic, what we did at first instance is to see the companies that we can take through surgery at making sure they work in consonance with the spirit of the sales. And the ones we cannot redeem, we cannot do anything about them. Together with the BPE, which we are working with collaboratively, and the NCP, headed by the Vice President. We're working together and making sure all the anomalies, as many as we can prevent, we work on that. But I can as well tell you, unfortunately, most of these companies were working before they were privatized. But after being privatized, some years down the line, the people that bought them, they were not in any way carrying out their responsibilities as expected. This affected the spirit at which the privatization exercise is supposed to be. And it's so much unfortunate at the same time. If you look at those things that are the best interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you will see all sectors of the economy where they were privatized, including the hotels. You will see the way they were cannibalized. This is not the way, and this is not the spirit at which privatization should go through. As a committee in the Senate, we work so hard day in, day out at making sure we correct all these anomalies. And where we have personal interest of even people in government, in the privatized enterprises, even before, is who you know in the government of the day. This is not supposed to be the norm.
Senator Badara,
but we are working
Senator Badara,
as
let me
a
come in
committee.
here, if you will. Can I come in here? You
We are
mentioned
working as a committee
one of the points that you made. You said
sure
some of the companies that were privatized were actually working well, suggesting that the federal government was doing a good job running those some of those assets, and you said they were privatized. Are you saying that those categories of assets or companies should have been left alone? The government was actually doing a good job at running them instead of them being privatized? Because some analysts did argue that, yes, government or private enterprises or the private sector usually does a better job running some of these institutions or assets, but sometimes the federal government itself doesn't exactly do a bad job. So how do you draw the line between what assets should be privatized and what shouldn't?
Yeah. Most of those enterprises, in the first instance, in the full spirit of privatization, at achieving the desirable objectives as government supposed not to be in business, but to provide the enabling environment for people that will do businesses. But it's unfortunate that even the people that are buying these enterprises, they are not in good spirit and in tandem with the purposes of those privatization exercise. Now you see unemployment, you see even the salaries of people that are working there, that people are not taken care of. That is where the Senate of the present time, we have drawn the line. If we are told we cannot privatize, let us make sure those enterprises are working. What is the essence of privatizing? And the people that are even there after the privatization are being unnecessarily punished, thrown into unemployment market. That's why we said we have to be gradual. In anything we do about privatization, we don't need to sell all our assets. We are saying this. And at the same time, we are looking at the host communities. They must be taken into confidence. They must be part of the privatization. They must be given some percentage. If you look at what is happening, it's not possible to come to my village and come and buy the enterprise there. I'm sure my people will rise at making sure those enterprises works. But in the past, nothing of such is happening. Even most people that are buying all these things, it's unfortunate that they do not have true desire at making sure this thing works. That is most painful by the time even the legislature, we are telling the government the best way to do this, and they take such to be just a mere suggestion or opinion, which in any way does not help the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But as a Senate, we take these as challenges which are surmountable. And we're working so much at making sure the purposes of those privatizations are achieved.